Hi everyone, Quiveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. You might be able to tell by the date at the bottom here that we are looking at April 8th, and we will be looking at the solar eclipse. It's being called the Great American Eclipse, and it will be visible over a large stretch of North America. If we take a look in here, we can see that by midday here in Ireland, the moon is still quite a bit to the side of the sun. I should, there we go, be able to grab the moon. As we move through the day here in Ireland, we'll see the moon and the sun start to get closer together as they begin sinking down into the west. So of course the moon is orbiting around us in this direction, but the Earth is also turning away here, or at least Ireland is our portion of the Earth. So we're starting to see the edge of the moon backlit there just as the sun sets here for us on the 8th. If we were able to follow this around the world, we'd start to see the moon come in front of the sun and block it out. So that's what we're going to do. First off, I'm going to get rid of the ground if I can. There we go. And that should allow us to continue following this under the Earth, and we can see them starting to line up there. Now, this isn't a total solar eclipse. If you are at the same latitude as Ireland, you won't get to see the total solar eclipse. You are essentially too high up. You're looking over the moon and still seeing the sun peeking out from above it. So those people who are at particularly high latitudes in Canada, for example, if you're in Newfoundland or up at the top of Newfoundland or in Nunavut, up in those northern areas, then you're not going to see this eclipse. You need to be a little further south. And of course, we're looking at this view here, through the Earth. This is definitely below the horizon for us here in Ireland. I'll bring the ground back up. We're not going to be able to see it. We won't see the solar eclipse. So we're going to travel to the United States where the solar eclipse will be visible. The path of the eclipse, it's going to come kind of across like this, and the people along that line are going to see the eclipse. But it should look best just around here. And of course, I will be able to adjust this to make sure that we're exactly in the path of the eclipse. Now, these eclipses are very well predicted. They're very well understood. And that means we do know, or well, scientists do know, exactly where this eclipse is going to be at its best. There is exact points of latitude and longitude where this eclipse will be at its absolute peak. And you can look it up. You can go on the internet, you can check exactly where the path of the eclipse is to give you the best possible view. But I am going to rough it out here. I'm going to figure out exactly where the best place is by taking a look at the moon when it's coming up to the eclipse. Now, we are, I believe, still just a little high on the planet. We need to be a little bit further south, a little bit lower in the United States. We can see a tiny, tiny sliver of the sun there peeking out from the side of the moon. But we're also starting to see the corona, and the sky has definitely dimmed. Even though this isn't in the path of totality for the total solar eclipse, there's Jupiter and Venus visible in the sky. We're going to hop a little bit further south. I might need to do this at a bit of an angle because the path of the eclipse does kind of curve across the planet. So here we go. We'll zoom back in on the sun and the moon here so I can try and get them lined up. Oh, there's the moon moving off. Well, we don't seem to have gone far south enough. It's still looking a little bit high off the edge of the sun when it reaches what would be the totality from a slightly better location. So let's see if I can fix that. We'll move just a little bit further down, a little bit more into the center of the continental United States. Around there are going to be several areas that see the totality of the eclipse. The umbra of the moon, the darkest part of its shadow, will travel across the United States while the eclipse is happening. So totality will occur for a few people. It won't just be a single group of people who get to see totality. Still not getting it lined up perfectly here, but that's okay. I would say it's about the journey, but in this case, it really is about the destination. It's the eclipse that we want to see. So we've gone significantly further south now. We're pretty much at the border with Mexico and the United States. There we go. This is the totality of the solar eclipse. There isn't a single piece of the actual surface of the sun visible here, only its corona, only its outer atmosphere. And we can see some of the curves here, these coronal mass ejections, these flares from the sun that send out a lot of high energy particles, which can then create auroras here on Earth. So this is the dark part of the eclipse. I wonder if it'll get any darker at any point of the eclipse, because the sky, it does almost look like it's nighttime in the middle of the day when the eclipse is at its absolute peak. It does get quite dark. I don't know if this simulation will quite give it, will quite do it justice, because it is an amazing thing to see, especially if you can see it in real life. Now, we can definitely see Jupiter and Venus there, but off to the side, there is Saturn and Mars just about visible. And if the sky is dark enough, well, there is a comet out there, comet 12P Pons-Brooks. I will adjust the light pollution just in case. Of course, this solar eclipse is going to happen during the day, and a lot of streetlights aren't going to be turned on. A lot of floodlights aren't going to be turned on. So light pollution may be less of an issue, but particularly in places where lights come on automatically. If the sky gets to a certain level of darkness, the lights can automatically come on. There are some street lights, some street lamps that are controlled by light-dependent resistors, and those light-dependent resistors, they measure how much light is hitting them, and how much electricity they resist depends on that. And if you are in an area with those kinds of automatic streetlights, then there is a good chance that the lights will come on when the sky gets dark during the middle of the solar eclipse. It will be dark enough in some places for that to occur. Now, here we go. With the light pollution removed, if you are out in the countryside, away from cities, there definitely won't be any extra light in the sky. There's Venus, Saturn, and Mars reasonably clearly, and if we zoom in just a little bit more, there's Mercury, and there is the comet 12P Pons-Brooks. So if you are in ideal conditions, if you have a really good camera that can take an image of the eclipse, there's a chance that you'll get to see all of these things in a row. Now, of course, if you are in space, the solar eclipse will still happen. The moon will still line up with the sun. So if the International Space Station travels across the right portion of the Earth during this eclipse, something like this, the moon will still be eclipsing the sun. There's Mercury, comet 12P Pons-Brooks, Jupiter, Uranus, and out the other side we have Venus, Saturn, and Mars. A huge collection that you can see all at the same time while this amazing event occurs. Now, a solar eclipse isn't a once-in-a-lifetime event. If you're willing to travel around the world, eclipses happen, reasonably regularly. There will be more solar eclipses in your lifetime if you don't get to see this one. With so many things in the sky, I have my tough time tracking them all, but here we go. You will get to see another solar eclipse if you're willing to travel. There's a good chance that another one will occur in only a few years. But seeing something like this, that comet that only comes around once every 71 years, that kind of thing is a little bit rarer, and that could absolutely be described as a once-in-a-lifetime event. So I do have a video that talks about that particular comet 12P Pons-Brooks, in a little bit more detail if you'd like to look it up. This is going to be an amazing view of the sky, and again, this is a dark sky, no light pollution. You may actually need to be in the countryside to pull this off if you're in an area that lights up when the sky gets dark enough. And we can definitely see there's still a blue sky, there's still light from the sun hitting the Earth, and of course if you were a few hundred miles in either direction, you wouldn't get to see this eclipse. Certainly not a total one. You would only be in the moon's penumbra rather than its umbra. Even here, we're getting to see, there's Orion, visible during the day. This is, very nearly midday down here in the southern United States, northern Mexico is where we are looking at this particular view. Now, I have done this in previous videos. I believe it was last year. I showed the view from the moon of this eclipse happening on the Earth, and that is absolutely something I would like to do again. So let's put ourselves on a portion of the moon that is facing the Earth. We don't want to be on the dark side of the moon. There we go. Pretty close to the lunar equator, a couple of degrees off, but that's no biggie. Here we are. Still on the 8th. Fantastic. And if we take a look down here, there's the Earth. And if we zoom in, there is the totality. There is the shadow of the moon hitting the Earth just there in the southern United States, northern Mexico. So let's keep the Earth in our view here, move through time a little bit. There's the shadow moving across the planet. So we can see that for people living in the Pacific, there is a chance to see this eclipse as it occurs. And as we move forward, we can see the shadow crossing into Mexico there under Baja California and crossing across the United States. Now, we are looking at the United States here at an angle, so we can see the Gulf there and stretching up along the coast towards New England and Newfoundland. That is where the shadow's headed. You can see that it's still over land there, or just about. If you can't see it, trust me, it's still over land there in the northern United States as it passes out into the Atlantic Ocean to finish up. So that is the eclipse viewed from the moon. That's what it's going to look like. And we can see that dark umbra, and you might be able to tell the paler, fainter penumbra there around it, just a subtle shade of grey. So that's the upcoming eclipse. You won't get to see it like this, of course, unless you are a very lucky and secret astronaut who is going to the moon without anybody being informed about it. But that is something that we will be able to see if we are in the right part of the world. If you are in the United States or Mexico or Canada on April 8th, keep a lookout. Take a look at the NASA website or the European Space Agency website. Wrong button. Take a look at those websites. They're keeping track of where the eclipse is visible. They can give you an idea of where it's going to be best seen, and I can promise you that it won't be best seen from here in Ireland, unfortunately. Not for us or really any of Eurasia or Africa. It's really just North America and parts of the Pacific that get to enjoy this one. But if you enjoyed this look, if you were in a part of the world where you won't get to see the eclipse and this preview is the best you've got, then I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked the video. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you'd like to be kept up to date about events like this in future and get these kinds of previews and special looks at them. You can also take a look at my website, queebeanscontent.ie, if you'd like to read a little bit of this information. Hopefully, after enjoying such an amazing view, you'll come back around and keep checking out my videos. If you do, I'll see you then.